The Utah Story Show is brought to you in part by Utah State, home of the Aggies. So living on campus means more sleep, more friends, and better grades because you are not commuting. While others are driving or walking on campus, you're getting those precious extra minutes of sleep. Instead of going home to your mom or your cat, you're hanging out with roommates, neighbors, and friends. So 84% of USU students live away from home, making on-campus housing a community of academic support, peer mentors, friends, and constant activities. For a virtual tour, room details, theme options, and to apply, visit usu.edu/housing. Okay, we are live. Okay, let's take a look at that elderberry. That is awesome.
It's still going. Okay.
Okay.
Now you're really live?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a new beer, and let's see, by
Everybody's got to know about this.
the Choose the Left Brewing Company. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a can, a white can that looks like a missionary shirt with a red tie and a black label that says elderberry. Sin responsibly, should be out soon, by the Choose the Left Brewing Company.
I've never heard of Choose the Left Brewing Company.
Well,
That
they haven't
sounds
released
awesome.
yet, so in the next month we're all going to be drinking those cans that look like
Is it brand new, this brewing
brand
company?
new. It was on the face, and it said coming out momentarily.
It is a Utah brewing company? Mm-hmm. Man.
I don't think
gosh.
it'll be a New York brewing company.
Yeah, I want to run that ad in the magazine.
You want to run that cover, man.
So on the show today, thank you everybody for joining us, is Babs DeLay, a 35-year real estate veteran in downtown Salt Lake City, has been your focus mostly, right?
Mostly.
And so you started when downtown was really not suitable for human beings.
Yes, a toxic waste zone of brown fields. And then magically, Didi Corradini, as part of the giant Olympic trade-off, we had to get new freeways, new freeway exchanges, and people were starting to move here. But the city only had like 150, 125,000 residents, the actual Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. And she was kind of brilliant in that she couldn't tax us anymore. We would have rioted. So she needed more land to tax. And what happened was the on and off ramps got pushed further west, and that was wonderful because it allowed for more land to be developed, i.e. Gateway. Mm-hmm. And when you have land like that, then you can have more taxes coming in to help pay for all of the services that all the people who come into town commuting every day use, like fire and police and what have you. Mm-hmm. Then they go away and we're left with the bill. So that was pretty great back then.
Yeah, and what I've kind of found fascinating about Utah, well, Salt Lake City, when you compare it to Denver, is we've got this small downtown city area, but then this big county. Yeah. And then the city ends up kind of competing with the county for taxes and for retail and tax producing entities. Do you know why that was somebody's brilliant idea? Why didn't we don't just have the whole thing be the city like Denver is?
I have no clue. Wouldn't that be a concept? I think all of the burbs now would fight it. Like, just think 35 years ago, I mean, there was not that much out there in the burbs. I remember even further back, let's say, well, I'm going to really date myself. Let's say 40 years ago, I got lost in Sandy, in a part of Sandy that had no houses. And my car got stuck in the sand dunes on the East Bench, and I had to hike down massive hill to get down to houses in order to find a phone to call people. Wow. Yeah, and now we have like Daybreak and Tracks, and Daybreak would put up their dukes to say, we're not going to be part of Salt Lake City. We are unique and unusual, and we're the new Harvard Yale, and we're where everybody wants to live. And the same with South Jordan, which is now Sojo. Really? Would everybody? Well, come on, let's applaud that idea.
I never
Who
heard.
thought of that?
Sojo? No,
Sojo,
please.
yes, hilarious. It's an interesting concept why we're not all one city.
Yeah, because I noticed when I first started doing reporting on problems that impacted communities and businesses, one of the first problems I noticed in Sandy was their Sandy Walmart was closing, and they were losing a massive amount of taxes due to that Walmart closing and moving to Draper. They were moving off of State Street in Sandy into Draper, and the mayor said, "Well, we absolutely need a Walmart in our jurisdiction because the taxes are crazy. We're going to lose."
Right.
So that Quarry Bend development, you know what I'm talking about, where there's
Absolutely.
the two super centers.
That was
That
just
was
a
supposed to be a
quarry.
park.
Uh-huh.
That was supposed to be a giant sugar house park. And he's
Nah.
like, "Nah, let's have some big boxes. Let's invite Walmart to go here and partner with Boyer Company." And
I've never been in a Walmart in my life.
really,
That's
amazing.
I
That's
know.
great.
I know. Sorry. out of my frame of reference. But I point them out to people. There's the Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, and they become these dependencies, I think. If your city is built on the tax revenue of big boxes and chain stores, and
Yeah.
you have homogenous development all along the Wasatch
Absolutely.
Front, and it's not pretty. It's so
Yeah, but now with everything growing as it is, and mass transportation trying to grow, can't possibly grow as fast, but you're noticing that we're having this intense building of condominiums, townhomes, all along these mass transit lines, and many of them are rentals. But the ones that are for sale, those are going to increase tax bases.
yeah.
I recall 35 years ago, maybe between 30 and 35 years ago, there was a brand new subdivision that went in South Salt Lake, about 30th South and 3rd East. And it was going to be, I'll make this up, 60 new homes in a little neighborhood that back then sold for $40,000 a home. And the developer had bought out all of these homes and given them fair value at that time, and was putting in these 2-story brand new stucco homes with 2-car garages on very small lots. And people are like, what? Who would live there, first of all? And second, the South Salt Lake was very excited because it was going to almost triple the taxes they were getting from that. And of course, we've seen now anywhere there's a lot, let's put in something. Years later, that little subdivision still standing. But an example of bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you served on the planning committee for how many years too?
I served on the planning commission for Salt Lake City for 8 years, and I was chair of the planning commission because you just sort of it just happens that when you're on that you end up being the chair of the planning commission, which that being the chair was the most fun because I was the most efficient planning commissioner because I had sat through so many planning meetings that were so boring that I would not allow for boredom at all.
Nice.
A little bit of humor always, and just let's get on with the project, and let's make sure that we're talking about land use issues and not your personal feelings about whether or not we're saving the world, because it didn't have anything to do with planning issues. It was the most fascinating thing I had ever done until I served on the board of UTA for 2 years before the legislature ended the board of UTA. So for me, I have this huge, big picture look at Salt Lake City and Utah and how things fit in, and I love that. I'm micro-focused on my real estate business, and yet I see the big picture, and when people say, wow, look at everything going up along the tracks lines, it's like, yes, if they build it, they will come, and that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like that is the new model for building out a city, especially when you live in a place that's a geographic bowl, and every place we go, we're going to make our air less breathable, and it's not naturally getting that air filtered out. But it now, I mean, in the last 3-4 years, we've seen more condos and apartments being built. Do you attribute that to the people who are migrating into Salt Lake, or is that just the demand of the millennials that and the new people who are here now?
What we're finding is millennials have finally, I said that word twice, sorry. The millennials are deciding that they want to buy and that they want to partner up and they want to have children. And that means they have a desire for stability, which means they'd like to buy something. I believe it was last year, or the quote I had heard was statewide we were down about 45 to 50,000 housing units around our state. And I had pulled up a little piece of data for you. Utah's capital city had slightly more than 12,000 apartments back in 2000. The number grew to 2,554 units by last year. Not a whole lot, according to the research by the city council. And builders have been on something of an apartment construction tear since 2013, with 91% of the city's total residential building permits issued for apartments between 2013 and 2017.
Whoa, 91%.
Yeah,
Since
not for
2013.
condos and not for homes.
For
So
apartments.
everything that you see going up, particularly in downtown, that are high rises, like high rises meaning 4 to 6 stories, those are all for rent, and those are for people moving here temporarily, and then they'll decide if they want to stay here, which so many people do because we got the big 5. Actually, it's the big 6. We have skiing. We have these wonderful seasons. We are still really affordable in so many ways. And if you want to stay here, what are you going to buy? We're not building more houses in the avenues and Sugar House where everybody wants to live downtown. Rose Park is becoming unaffordable, if you can believe that. And are people wanting to live out in Daybreak? Well, now, actually, they are. I'm seeing a lot of young seniors move out there because you can take tracks, and there's many amenities going in there quicker than you can imagine. And a lot of folks are working down in Utah County and then trying to take mass transit back into the city. They don't want to stay down there. They want to live up here.
I talked to a few people at the Fourth West Apartments, and that's exactly what they said.
Yep.
They said Silicon Slopes is nice to work at, get big salary tech jobs, but
Yeah.
not to live at.
I have a friend in Sacramento who commutes during the week, lives with a friend in San Francisco because they can't find housing in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's only 88 miles away, and yet the average commute is a 3-hour commute. And so that's 6 hours a day if you're going to do that. So instead, they're opting to stay in the city during the week and then on the weekends be home. That's hell on your family.
Oh, yeah.
Here, our commute might be 45 minutes to an hour. You know, you listen to the radio and say, well, there's, a half-hour backup on the freeway, and people from California just scoff at that, Oh, can't imagine.
Do you find we're getting people moving here in droves from California?
Absolutely.
A lot of people who want
Absolutely.
to finally buy a place are coming here.
I did an open house this weekend. In 2 days, I probably had 60 people through. I would say easily half of those people were people relocating here who have been renting or are currently renting and are looking to buy. And they were, I would say 90% of them were couples, and a bunch of them were families, young families, 1 or 2 kids, and just been looking at the market. And a couple of them had chimed in to say, we have lost out on house after house after house. We're getting so tired of this in the areas that they want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it's especially really hard in Sugar House, 9th and 9th, downtown. It's just becoming extremely scarce. Just looking at Redfin and
Absolutely. But I can tell you that I'm having a lot of luck out in the Cottonwoods. Still really good houses out there at good prices.
Cottonwood Heights. you mean,
13, like around Alta Hospital.
Okay.
And then for starter, if you want to be downtown, I used to take people to Lower Sugar House. That's not affordable anymore. Then I would beg them to go over to Rose Park. Now they're like, oh, Rose Park has tracks. But Rose Park's getting over $300,000. So if you're just maybe a 1 or 2 income, but you're, let's let's say you're in the arts field or social services and you get paid nothing and you want to buy a home. I'm sending people over, showing them the beauties of the Granary District or Poplar Grove or Glendale, because that's going to be affordable, but also the scary part is that's going to be gentrified and that's going to be unaffordable here in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the inventory is not much at all.
And then let's look into my little crystal ball and take you on this little path here. I've been touting the beauty of Rose Park for 35 years. Okay, Rose Park, it's still great, but not affordable to people. So now they're going to move into this area. Well, where are they going to move next? Well, I can tell you where they're going to move next because look what's happening. We have a new airport opening next year, which is going to have thousands of employees. Next to that, we have this thing called the prison. Next to that, we have this thing called, we don't know, the inland port. God only knows how many people that's going to bring. Where are all of those workers going to come from? Are they going to be living in Sugar House? No, they don't want that commute. They're going to be living in Tooele.
I was thinking that.
And the next thing is Grantsville. From
Stansbury.
downtown Salt Lake, Tooele is 20 minutes, and Grantsville is another 12. And I know that 2 huge warehouses in Tooele were just rented to grow bud. They landed in one of the, bud contracts.
Oh, really?
So that'll have a whole hell of a lot of people working out there clipping buds and getting that ready for the April 1st deadline. Isn't that ironic? April 1st. Okay. Yeah, look west.
That's interesting, yeah. And I think that, what do you think about the inland port and the prison being built on our nice swamp that's out there on the northwest quadrant?
I look at that land, and I knew that from Planning Commission that the new intermodal hub was at some point going to move to 5600 West rather than downtown on 6 West and 2nd South. I mean, when you look at the future plans of Salt Lake City, and I'd look at that and say, yeah, that's a lot of really unusual playa, ecosystems, and mosquitoes.
Yeah, that article in the Trib.
Yeah.
It's the most mosquito-populated area west of the Mississippi.
Great.
And that's where that's our future.
Yeah.
Of all of our development.
Yeah, that's no bad. That's bad. There was something on NPR the other day about in Brazil, they have the largest mosquito farm on purpose. And they are genetically changing these mosquitoes. They glow in the dark or something, and they let them out to go mate, and then they don't procreate, and they don't, then there'll be a lesser population. We're going to have something like that out there.
Something.
Yeah.
Genetically engineer, CRISPR.
But there's so many things that live off of those mosquitoes.
Yeah. I mean, the larva is what all the birds eat, and the bird's migratory pattern is based on finding
And that is
food.
one of the 5 flyways in the United States for migrating birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a bird geek like me, that is very sad to think, oh, are we going to get rid of all these mosquitoes out there? Oh, but we want people to live and work out there.
And it's crazy right now. I think it's 1% of our property tax goes to mosquito abatement, and that ends up being $3 million. And that's not going to even scratch the surface of what they're going to need for the prison and the inland port.
When I volunteered, I went on the web and said, I'd like to volunteer for my city. That's how I got on Planning Commission, mind you. And my first position was a committee. I don't even know if that committee's around anymore, but we reviewed city budgets on things like sidewalks. And they said, what do you not want to do? And I said, mosquito abatement. I don't want to be on that committee. But when I saw how little that was, and I thought, well, that can't be that important. And now I think it would be very interesting to be on the mosquito abatement committee, because that is going to be a huge issue out there.
Yeah. Because the chemicals that they use for mosquito abatement, they say that they're the best available for the environment, but there's just no way you can kill massive amount of mosquitoes without causing some harm.
No.
Right?
No, not for everything that eats them. But, I live in a town where I say, there are no bugs here. I love living here. I mean, I'm originally from back east where there's ticks and mosquitoes and all sorts of creepy crawlers back there because it's so humid. Here, nah, we don't have bugs out here.
Yeah, I guess not.
No.
Not in most areas.
And, how's that going to change with global warming?
So from the big picture perspective, when you look at the decision to build the prison and the inland port on that swamp, do you think they made the best decision?
I don't building wise, I don't think so. It's costing them double, triple what they thought it was, probably because of the way that playa is, what it's made out of. And then it's not stable. Especially if we're having global warming, we're gonna have more water, less water.
Yeah,
I don't think this is a safe place.
It's all gonna be built on piers.
Yeah.
I know a guy from Louisiana, and he's like, he was looking at the way they were building it. It's like, you got to go way deeper and pile drive your piers. He knows because he's built stuff on the bayou. He says they're not doing it. They didn't put that into account.
Yeah.
And I hope to think that the government leaders who are spearheading those projects know enough to study all of that. But do you think it's something we need to worry about? That the airport, the inland port could sink, or the prison could start sinking?
I don't have enough information about the inland port. That was not ever any plan I saw as a planning commissioner. I did see things like the prison or some major commercial development would be out there. Didn't know it was going to be the prison. And you hope they know, but there is so much money rolling on this one, particularly the prison, that they might not see that as a huge priority.
Do they have to go before the planning commission?
Only if they need variances. It's been approved and they're building away. The other side of that is, what's going to open when the prison moves? That entire piece of Salt Lake Valley, that south part, right before you get to the Silicon Slopes, you got a lot of very interested parties wanting to develop that. And I find that interesting to follow the little tidbits that we get to hear about who's going to develop it.
State Senate president who just retired owned a bunch of property around there. Fast-tracked the prison move.
Greg Hughes? Is that who you're talking about?
Wayne Niederhauser.
Yeah. Don't know him as well. I know Greg because Greg appointed me to the UTA board.
It's like they all know where things are going to go. And we wrote a little story based on a Tribune investigation. Kevin Garn and Greg Hughes knew where the UTA stop was going to be for Front Runner. They bought property where they knew it was going to go. They flipped it and made $1 million a piece, and that was a little story tidbit that the Tribune did, which I really think that's what we need to know as residents. Where are the special interests? What are their objectives and motives?
Well, I find that as secondary. I kind of call BS on that, because after sitting in planning commission meeting after planning commission meeting for 8 years and 2 years worth of UTA meetings, no one came to meetings. No one is involved in the process.
I don't doubt the
meetings. So if people found out that a track stop was going to go here, it was public knowledge a long time ago.
Nobody has the inside scoop that that's where it's going to go.
Not in my mind, because there's meeting about them, and they were all public meetings. So. Talking for UTA, but even with Planning Commission, when they came in and said, well, let's look at the big picture of Salt Lake in the next 20 years. How many meetings did we have about that, where you could see, the intermodal hub will be out here? And Kennecott, Rio Tinto, owns the entire west side of the valley up that hill. And by the time they're done with Daybreak, there will be all homes all the way up to the edge of the mountain where the smelter is, and they have enough water to build homes all the way up to there, and by the time they're done, we'll need 90 more schools. That's not inside information. That's just put out at planning meetings where nobody goes. Now it's on television, and there are a few watchers that are kind of in the know, but the average Joe, no. Jane and Joe don't care.
Yeah, and I like those meetings. I mean, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are snoozers for most part, but you can definitely learn something.
You can, and you can also go and get
They're
the minutes.
On YouTube.
And they are. Yeah. So if you want to watch them or for them.
Yeah, because you can just see exactly how the city is growing, and you can see where they're planning. They're changing zonings of certain areas that were all commercial industrial for residential.
In Salt Lake.
And
trying to watch out for developers who are, most recent conversation I had was about developers who buy 2 or 3 parcels and they want to combine them, but the zoning is limited, and or there'll be one parcel where they own a historic home and they will do some terrorist architecture and accidentally run their bulldozer into a side of that home or start pulling out bricks so it collapses.
Oh, really?
And then they'll say, no, we're not rebuilding it.
Dang.
And oh, dang, well, we got these 4 parcels here, so now we can build up. Yeah.
I saw that, witnessed that with a camera rolling with my own eyes at the Sugar House Granite Block.
There you go.
He was like,
Oops.
Soren Simonson, he was getting involved saying, oh, well, let's just do a little bit more work. Let's make it a historic preservation area so we can save the buildings. The next day, the developer was out there bulldozing, and he's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yep.
And I got my camera, and it was snowing, and I have this footage of a blizzard while he's tearing down his buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
happening.
was something. But I mean, I kind of get it. If you're got a bank loan and it's based on this timeline and you're ready to go, you don't want to lose all that based on somebody trying to save a building if you're a developer. So I guess.
And then, and I'm this huge history buff, and I write about it all the time. I talk about it all the time. The home I had this weekend for an open house, I had a display of the history of the neighborhood, the original You Went to School, the original East High School, the trolley tracks that were close by, and Forestdale Golf Course, which had moved from Gilmer Park, where the first golf course was located.
Oh, really?
And I had an ad from the Tribune that said, and we're advertising all these neighborhoods as Caucasian only.
Okay.
And this will improve your life, and you will be guaranteed perfect neighbors forever. It's hilarious. 100-year-old history. I love history, but I can tell you there are people that, if you are a developer, that will try and stop you because your roofing, the way your roof is historically important, so you shouldn't tear down that building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes a little extreme. I've had experiences with that a couple of times.
Well, I have a friend who owns a place in the Avenues, and it is on the historic registry.
As is the historic district.
They were trying to get a fence around their property that would comply with the historic committee.
Yeah.
And the committee had to deliberate over and over and over, and that part of it just seems really difficult to deal with. Like I totally appreciate all the historic architecture in the Avs, and I'm glad it's there. But what would be my advantage as a homeowner to be on the historic registry?
Well, you're in a historic district. On the historic registry is just something cool, and you get a plaque.
Yeah.
You can't change really the outside of your house, but you can do whatever you want on the inside of your home.
Okay.
Now, is your lot big enough that you wanted to put in an ADU, like a little secondary little place out back for your mom to live in, or your nanny? That's where you start to get into trouble. And does it have to look exactly like that same house? What does it have to be made out of? Many, many, many rules. In a kind of a broader picture, when old Brigham and the gang showed up here and they were living downtown, he platted out the avenues so that homes on 1 acre, you might have 10 to 15 homes. And you get more towards Sugar House, where you might have 4 to 6 homes. And then you get South Salt Lake, you might only have 3 or 4 homes per acre. You can see that. And it's really difficult zoning-wise avenues because everything is so small. You have 0 lot lines between homes. You have homes that have 0.06 acres. A house takes up generally 0.05 acres. So when you're shopping for houses on whatever app you use, like, oh, that's a great house. You go, look at the yard, 0.06. That probably means you don't have a garage.
Yeah. And you see some weird things in the Avs where there was a house pretty cheap. It was like $500 or something in the Avs, and then we go in, it's pretty nice, but then you notice the neighbor or somebody at some point bought the whole backyard because you got 0 backyard. The neighbor's fence was right up against the back porch, and so if you're cool with that, then can get a bargain. But
And you still have so many little tiny garages in the avenues that won't fit big SUVs because those weren't garages. Those were the original carriage houses. And some of them you can go into. There's one on the corner of, I want to say, 11th East and 6th South over by Judge. I've sold that home, I don't know why, like 3 times in my career. But if you go into that garage, you can. It has an upstairs. You can still smell the hay.
Really?
Yeah. You know,
Cool.
100 years later. Isn't that cool?
They were storing their horses and carriages. And,
Yeah. And or that might be the carriage barn for the neighborhood. Because you had the bigger lot, so you'd pay, $1 a month or something to have your horse there fed.
One idea that I wonder why it's totally gone out of style is the idea of the alleyway. I absolutely love that I live off an alleyway and my whole property isn't taken up by a driveway.
Right.
And you can just open a fence and there's my garage. I have no driveway, and it's just awesome. So why is that? Is it just because not enough planning goes into new communities, or it just makes it easy?
A lot of alleyways got abandoned by the city, so they weren't taking care of them, and neighbors got together and said, hey, let's just split the difference and add to our backyard. Alleyways are traditionally bad for crime.
Yeah, that's definitely
Where all the tagging happens and all the homeless can live, and no bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you didn't have to worry about crime and we lived in a perfect world, alleyways would be great, but you're right.
Yeah.
So looking at the growth, the development of Salt Lake, and you're a first-time home buyer, what would you recommend to a person in that situation? Would you just rent for a while and wait for the market to soften up?
That's not going to happen.
No, you don't hear that that's going to happen from any realtor I've talked to.
Oh no, I disagree because we've got Chinese tariffs that are going on, and we're going to have a recession. We are going to have a recession in the next. I'm going to say the next year. Will it be the recession of 2008? No, it will not be that bad. No matter what tariffs happen. I have a friend who owns a tile business. And I'll give her a shout out. Hey, Tile for Less. She and her husband, let's say you want to put in a cool tile in your bathroom. And the way tile works these days, let's say it's the little tiles, you don't do them one at a time anymore. You buy them like in a 1-foot piece that's on like a mesh.
Yep.
You lay that down, then you put the grout over that.
I did that
Great.
before.
So really in tile right now is made of porcelain. Okay? Those little things of porcelain. She said, well, before the tariffs, those were $5. Now they're $25. Just in the last 2 months, they have gone up. Because the only place that makes porcelain tile, China.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Then my other friend was talking about having to replace her metal roof. She lives way up in the hills. And she did it for $9,000, and now it's $25,000 because all the metal was coming from China.
Wow.
Those tariffs are going to start to take effect, and in big ways that we're going to notice. Small businesses are noticing. We, the average consumer, are not noticing this. We're getting some bumps, but we're really not seeing it like the small businesses and the larger businesses. So a recession happens. When the last one happened, wow, you could buy houses for nothing, right? Well, this is different now because people have a lot of equity in their homes. And sellers aren't going to sell because they'll wait it out and they'll wait till their equity comes back. I don't think we'll see the number of foreclosures, and so buyers won't be able to get in on good deals.
Do you think prices will go down, though?
They could soften, but they're not going to go down like
Really?
10, 20%.
Dang.
Nope. We got too many people moving here, and we have not enough builders. And with the tariffs, builders... your furnace is going to cost a hell of a lot more because those came from China. Your air conditioning comes from China. Blah, 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 to build a house comes from China. So the prices of housing is going up. Now, can we talk about the labor supply? Have you talked to small businesses trying to hire people?
Yeah, us. We're having a hard time.
Impossible to hire people for so many reasons. So builders aren't going to be building fast. They'll just slow down. And I don't see Salt Lake being affected horrifically.
I have to say I agree with you completely. And you compound that with what's going on in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle. It's like their homeless problems are getting worse and worse and worse. They're not dealing with them. They're pretending like they're non-existent.
That's white privilege.
Yeah.
But with the homeless in San Francisco, if you come from the airport, San Jose, San Francisco, and you take off one of the exits to head right downtown, because I go to San Francisco fairly often, you'll all of a sudden end up on a block that's all homeless tents. Those are not the homeless that we think about, that never bathe, that are on drugs, that are just, crazy. Those are people working at coffee shops.
Really?
And they're families, and they are people that can't afford housing, and they've worked out deals for the block to say, I'll watch your tent if you watch mine while I go to work at the grocery store over here. Oh, I'm not kidding at all.
Wow.
And let's all put together a pool here for porta potty so that we don't piss off the homeowners that live on this block that were, crapping on the sidewalk or what have you. These are real people living on the streets, not just the people that are way over here, that Pamela Atkinson is trying to help desperately in our town.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
That is.
Or they're doubling up. I mean, I have a friend who just graduated from college, and she can't find a place to rent. She doesn't have a big-time job, and she's living with 4 people, and they're all renting the house together. She gets along okay with her roommates, but she's like, I would like to live alone. She can't. I mean, the entry level for rentals in downtown Salt Lake for one of these high rises I was talking about is like $1,200 to $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then her salary right now, she's making about $2,200 a month.
Jeez.
And it's only supposed to be 1/3 of what you make for your housing.
And
expense.
so, do you think that those problems that are in Seattle, San Francisco, LA are going to come here?
Absolutely. Well,
And
you're
we're
not,
just going to lose our lower middle class, or our lower middle class and upper class are going to exist, and the middle class is getting dissolved.
absolutely. Yeah.
What can be done to
Well,
fix
it's a
that?
national problem. It's not just a
Yes.
local problem.
Yeah.
And I always think Utah seems to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to figure that out, and that's why one of the reasons I stay in Utah is we have a great governmental process here. We're the state that actually has, balanced books. We're doing well economically, and we have for some time, and we've got smart people on both sides of the fence. We should be able to figure this out. We should be able to figure out low-income housing. Salt Lake City alone just really irks me because of the amount of property that Salt Lake City owns and what Salt Lake City could be doing with housing that this administration certainly hasn't given a rat about it. And we could only hope. We've got 2 women running for mayor, both mothers. Luz has 6 children. Somebody's got to do something about housing, and moms usually are. Housing is a very big priority, so I'm having hope for the new mayor administration.
What could Salt Lake City be doing right away that could help?
They could be partnering to build low-income housing and creative low-income housing that was green. What is that block? 3rd West, 9th South, that was the old transportation warehouse. That's an entire city block that the city owns. The city could easily do it or partner with somebody, and they say, well, we don't want to be in the housing business. Oh, shut up. A lot of cities have figured that out, but just simple, basic housing. I mean, if you're stacking containers, you can live in 350 square feet. You've lived in a hotel room, haven't you, that's got a little ensuite in it?
Well, my thinking is always, if you just loosen up zoning laws, just allow things like container houses, mini houses to exist, which are against zoning laws, people can be creative. There's so many people who don't earn a lot of money, who maybe have some extra time, who can work together to build their own housing. I saw it happen in Moab, and I think it's spreading here, this community rebuilds idea, where you build your house with your own sweat equity, and then you lend your own sweat equity to another person building their home, and they were building them out of straw bales. And it's just this super cool idea, because the thing you don't want when you buy a house is zero equity right off the bat. You want to have as much equity as you can, because then you have stability in your life. And
Absolutely.
but the city isn't doing anything like that you know.
Not that's visible. Not that I sold. I don't know of any inventory. If you went on to the MLS, our MLS, not a tertiary site like Zillow or something, but if you went into our MLS and tried to search for properties like under $100,000 that wasn't a condo, there's no such animal.
Yeah.
How about under 200,000? Well, they're going to be pretty frightening, and I'm probably going to take a gun to show them to you because there are scary people living there using it as a shooting gallery, or they're going to fall over.
Yeah.
But that's affordable. When you say, for a person who's working at $15 an hour, or let's just do this for funds here at $15 an hour. Let's say 5 of it's taken out for taxes. So that'll be $10 an hour times 40 a week. That's $400 a week times 4. That's $1,600 a month. Now, you're supposed to be able to have housing for 1/3 of that. That's what your lender would say. So we'll divide that by 3. So that means you can find a place for $533 a month to rent and pay utilities and still live. Ain't gonna happen
unless you had 6 roommates.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the reality
dorm.
of that. But let's say you're making, I'm doing better than the $15 an hour. I'm making $25 an hour. Well, you're still gonna pay taxes. So 20 times 40 times 4 is 3,200 divided by 3 is $1,000 a month. Whoops. The minimum downtown is $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And there are buildings downtown that will rent out for $2,000 to $2,500 a month right behind West High School.
Yeah.
Luxury apartments.
Those go up to $8-9 grand a month.
Yeah.
There's some jazz players. They don't want to say who that live there now.
They also have had their cars stolen several times.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Right out of their beautiful luxury apartment.
Exactly. Wow. I know. It's a fun fact of downtown.
So what is it? I mean, the city has all of these special grants, special things in place for affordable housing for developers. Nobody's taken the bait. I watched a planning commission meeting, and it was just like they can't give away the permit for people to build affordable housing.
The grant isn't big enough. Number one. And people say, well, why are all these developers putting up these huge apartment buildings and not building condos? Because the federal government is allowing for that with all of the programs the federal government has for developers. So if the city started paying attention to what the feds have been doing, then maybe more people would step up. But the city's not offering a big enough carrot. Yeah.
And when I got onto the Housing and Urban Development website, Ben Carson runs it. He said the number one problem is actually not developer lack of participation. It's NIMBYism. It's these NIMBYs who don't want to ever allow zoning change, which would permit micro apartments,
density.
With places where you could possibly have an apartment without a parking spot.
You're back to white privilege.
You don't think that's true?
I believe it's completely true.
Yeah.
My wife volunteers for the In Between, which is the hospice for the homeless. And when the hospice for the homeless moved from the west side to 13th South and 12th East in a nursing home that they bought there, that's an 80-unit nursing home. Wow, the Whitey McWhite neighbors there just flipped out. These women were like, there's drugs everywhere, there are people everywhere. No, these people are dying in little rooms by themselves very quietly. That was just a perfect example of NIMBYism in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and it was when they started talking about all of these additional apartments in Sugar House. And they were telling them they're going to be 6 stories. I was like, have you been to Europe before? They have mostly 10 to 12-story residential housing. I was thinking they should go taller.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Because if you're a working professional and you're going to decide between living in a nice apartment and having a nice car or having a car at all, and you can ride transit, I would definitely choose let's have a nice apartment and no car. And then if you're not paying for the parking stall for your car,
Right.
you're going to save a lot of money, and you're going to have more
Yeah.
money to spend on nice things.
Whereas, like in New York City, where there, which is the most extreme of housing, if you want a parking place for your unit, that's a separate cost in these upper end condos, and they generally run about $500,000 just for a one-car parking space, and they can go up to $750,000 for, depending on the neighborhood, for a one-car parking space.
Jeez.
I have friends in San Francisco who will drive around their own damn house for an hour to find a parking space, and they have a handicap sticker.
Really?
They get home from work.
That's actually what's happening to us in Sugar House.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because everybody's aging, everybody has a handicap sticker.
A lot of our neighbors started doing Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
And we thought, well, good for you guys. You got your starter home, and it's got a mother-in-law apartment.
Yep.
Do it.
Yep.
And then they started just parking in our spots in front of our house.
Oh.
And I'm
What?
like, this isn't cool.
No.
I got to look for a parking spot to go home.
Right.
And of course,
that's one of the exact reasons people are against Airbnbs. Well, it takes up all the parking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of the avenues. No parking.
Oh, you can't. Do they have Airbnb allowed in? It's allowed everywhere in Salt Lake still, isn't it?
It doesn't matter if it's allowed.
It doesn't matter.
Everyone's doing it. Have you looked at the number of listings of Airbnbs in the neighborhoods?
We did it for a little bit in a rental, and it was
insane.
So not fun and not cool to have to clean up after people.
Nope.
And if we could have hired a company, great, but then they would have wanted $100.
Yes.
And then we wouldn't make any money on the Airbnb.
No, darn it. Oh, we didn't win that game. There's a way to win.
Yeah.
I had a guy making cash, not reporting to the IRS, $75,000 a year in his little Marmalade hut.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Cash only.
Well, Marmalade being so close to downtown, that's probably...
Yep. There were 500 rentals in Marmalade then.
Jeez.
That were all Airbnb or VRBO.
Wow.
That's what anybody does now.
So are you getting a lot of people coming, investors who want to buy places just to turn them into Airbnb and VRBO?
They may not say that up front, but I have a lot of people looking for properties that have a way to put in a mother-in-law apartment. The biggest thing they'll say is, I'd like a separate entrance. I'd like a house with a separate entrance. You can always put one in, but man, if it does have a possibility for that, it'll go like that. Yeah. Everybody wants this Airbnb. But also, everybody's parents are aging. And what does it cost to go into assisted living? The minimum it costs is $5,000 a month. If you need a bit of medical service, it's $7,000 a month. If you have Alzheimer's, it's more. Okay, well, so let's put mom in the basement. Let's put dad out in what was the tool shed. We can get some water out there somehow and some electricity. Let's do that. It's just too expensive for people that don't have health care to go into assisted living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the law that they passed with the ADU, opening that up. I mean, I know that's going to make my parking even harder in Sugar House, but is that what was the impetus for that?
Well, the city, and I believe that was one of the last years I was a planning commissioner. The city, sometimes you have to laugh. Most of the people that I worked with got better jobs at other municipalities in the valley because the city was paying crap to its planning division.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Cops say the same thing.
Right. So the city, towards the end there, I remember they were like, oh, let's see, food trucks? What? Where would they go to the bathroom? Where would they wash their hands? Where will they get electricity? This was the city staff. Like, hello, have you been to Portland? At that time, like, they have 900 food trucks just within this couple-mile area. And they went up there and they went, oh, okay, well, we'll allow 10 food trucks. And then within a couple of years, it was like, and we'll do the same thing with ADUs. So they went, okay, we'll allow 25 permits. We'll see how that works. And then now it's, So,
yeah. I'm seeing my neighbors building them, two right next to each other. And they're spending like this first one was just like a elaborate garage.
Yes.
It's low ceiling, $45,000.
Yeah.
To build it out.
But they've got the equity in their homes to do that, which is great for the economy. We've got, hopefully, but can they find anybody to build them? That's the problem.
Yeah.
There are no workers out there.
That must have been 150 square foot to build that place at that price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's in a neighborhood where homes sell for what? $250 a square foot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's a bargain.
Yeah.
So one thing we're going to be talking about in our October issue is Moab put a 100% moratorium on their new housing and a new overnight rental.
There are probably going to be bad deaths over this. There are probably going to be people like the Hatfields and the McCoys shooting over fences at each other over this.
It's crazy.
That town is. I don't even want to go visit.
I'm gonna go there
Are you?
on Wednesday to write a story about it.
Brave.
But it's like I'm talking to a realtor who. He and his son had a bunch of nightly rentals.
Oh boy!
And those would sell for 30% more than a regular home because they were zoned nightly rental.
Yeah.
Now they just wiped all that away.
Yeah.
What? And he's a libertarian, so of course he's one of the original Moabites.
I honestly I have no idea what's going on with those crazy people. I love my friends in Moab, and how that happened, I don't have enough information. I just think it's going to get down to guns down there. Moab is, Utah's, we've done a really good job getting people to come here. Yeah. And now we want them to all go away. Especially places like Moab. Like, no, don't go. I mean, do you go to Moab?
Mighty Five, we should have called it the
Mighty Six.
Okay, decent, but don't stay too long. 5,
Exactly.
6.
It is a 6 because we got that their railroad thing became the 6th.
What railroad thing?
The railroad.
Oh, that became okay.
Yes.
That's number 6.
So it's the 6th.
So
yes.
you can go to Promontory Point and say you went there too.
Yes, but I can't think of I used to be, ooh, I want to go to Moab. Now I'm like,
no,
I don't want to go to Moab. I know some other places I'm going to go, and I'm not going to tell you where it is. Yeah, no.
I know where I like to go. And
me too. Don't tell anyone.
Only if you follow me on Instagram will you find out.
No, I don't
follow
even
Utah
post
stories.
Nowhere. I will post nowhere.
That's probably a smart thing. I was thinking that the last time I went to a way cool place that's only 3 hours. I don't want to say where it is.
No. And that's one of my favorite things living in Utah is within an hour and a half to 3 hours. You can be in any kind of environment you want, from the Great Salt Lake, the playas up above there, to high forest, to red rocks. It's amazeballs. Yeah. But I'm not telling anybody where I'm going. No, they'll find out about it.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, I guess people would find out if they followed me on Instagram. But it's like this place is like what Little Cottonwood Canyon looked like 25 years ago.
Now.
And I'm like, gosh, this just can't get out of the bag.
Family came here this last winter when we had all that snow. I'm handicapped. I can't ski anymore. I skied a long time ago in college, so need to know, don't go up in the Solitude, Brighton for the winter at all. Hadn't been up there.
Alta.
Well, hadn't been up there. So I said, okay, brother and sister-in-law, let's go show you some snow. And they were so excited because they live in Tijuana, right? So we go up to Solitude, and the whole time I'm driving up this canyon going, why are all these cars here? Why is everybody parked along here? Okay, and I'm getting closer to the resort, and I go, why are people walking? Is the bus not working? What's going on? And I get up to the Solitude Resort, and the parking lot is like, what is this? There is no parking. I have a handicap license plate. Hi, is there any handicap parking? No. Okay. Let out the brother and sister, let them go crawl around. And I just sort of crawled around the parking lot for like an hour, waiting for them to play with some snow, grab an $8 cocoa, and then come back to the car. I'd never seen anything like it. And now Solitude is saying, well, we're going to charge. Well, great. Why don't you all charge? Why don't you all take the bus and let's get more buses running up there? But people don't want to take the bus. They want to drive in their own little car, and they want to pay $110, $150 a day to go skiing.
You know, that's another attribute to Utahns, like our NIMBYism. It's we got to be everywhere in our car. We
Yep.
got to be able to get everywhere in our car, and we're entitled to that parking. We have to
And it better
have
be
it.
close too.
Yeah, and so like we had Carl Fisher from Save Our Canyons on the podcast, and UTA, no UDOT, sorry, not UTA, UDOT. They want to expand the road up to Little Cottonwood to add an additional lane on either end, do some crazy engineering so that we can have a little mini freeway going up the canyon.
No,
It's
bad.
totally stupid idea.
Well, and you get to the top of there in Guardsman during this time of year. I'm on the board of the Girl Scouts, and a lot of people don't know that when you get to the top of Guardsman's, as soon as you go down, your first right gets to the Girl Scout camp way over there by the next
really?
mountain.
I didn't know that.
It is frightening to go to the top of Guardsman's because there are a lot of trails up there to a lot of hidden little lakes and what have you. To park, people are parked like you could push their car off of there. It is madness up there. And they don't really have a great plan for that, although Park City is trying to figure that out as well. But yeah, we got to have our cars.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's like he's fighting to save the canyon, the ecology, the beauty, the serenity, but then there's a million people fighting to get up there on a powder day.
Yeah.
It's kind of a losing battle, and it's, to me, it's almost like, gosh, I'm just not going to go up there.
No.
As much as I love that canyon, I grew up skiing those mountains from age 5 to 22. I had a season's pass to Snowbird, and I was like, but it's just, I just don't want to be up there. If that's not, if they don't find a mechanism to limit the number of cars, which buses would be the perfect answer.
Well, would you do something like go to Deer Valley where they limit the number of skiers and pay more?
I probably would. Yeah, because my problem is the number of people on the hill. Because everything's high-speed quads, they can get so many people up on the mountain, and then you're dodging people every time you're trying to ski down the hill.
Oh.
That's not fun.
No.
I can dodge people in the middle of the city. I don't need to be up at the top of Snowbird.
I remember skiing at Brighton when it was $15, and there was no one on the hill for a couple hours in the morning.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, we've done a great job. So we're in trouble with a lot of things. Housing is big. Parking, yeah, that's good. Everything that comes with it.
So do you want to get more involved as things progress, or you ran for city council? Is that
I
right?
ran for city council the year Derek Kitchen was so incredibly famous because of the gay marriage that I didn't really have a chance, although I did come really close. I don't think I'd ever run for office again. That was a self-funded, unique experiment. And I will work in any capacity as a volunteer, but I don't think I need to run for anything. I'm currently on the board of the Girl Scouts, which helps out a lot, and working like a dog. So do I have a lot of time?
You're still working a ton?
Oh, man. Yeah, I have 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week, and love what I do, mind you, but it's a crazy business, and I'm kind of at the top of my pyramid. I am at the top of my pyramid in sales, and so people call me a lot.
Yeah.
Yay for me.
Yeah, everybody knows your name.
Well, I've been around for a long time.
Real estate.
Yeah.
So how did you get out to Salt Lake in the first place?
I was sent here to reform. I went to Wasatch Academy in 1970.
No kidding.
No kidding. And that's where
Wow.
most of those kids came from. Let's see, I went to school with Africans from the Gambia, some black people from Chicago, part of the Thai royal family,
Jeez.
people from all over the world, 150 kids. I had a graduating class of 50. Now it is a school that I swear is half all Chinese doing immersion, which is amazing. Then after 2 years, back then that was a feeder school to Westminster, but I was going to be pre-med, so I went to the U for a minute, and then I freaked out because my classrooms with 5 people in them at Wasatch had 300 in them at the University of Utah. And my friends went, get over here. And Westminster was more like 15 in a classroom, and that was
my
much
brother
easier.
went for pre-med.
Yeah,
So it's a great place.
and I went there for 4 years and had 2 degrees and couldn't get hired to save my life because I was out and gay in the 70s and no one would hire me. So I went back to school, got another degree, ended up working for United Way PR, then got fired again because I was gay. And then a friend of mine said, well, duh, be a realtor. You work for yourself. I'm like, oh, okay. And that was the end of that.
Wow.
Yeah, 35 years later.
Yeah. So back then, it was just a big, serious thing to be out.
Oh, Lord, yes. And I was the first out real estate agent in the state of Utah. And I worked for the largest company at that time. Within 6 months, I was a rookie of the office. You know, I was doing great. And the owner called me in and said, you got to go. You're gay.
No kidding.
What? So luckily, my friend who had told me to get into the business opened up her own shop. So I went and worked with her.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't care. They fired you because you're gay. And that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Which they can do.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a whole different
But
show, dude.
it seems like Salt Lake has really come around. I mean,
oh, yeah. Well,
just
we
in
have
terms
paid
of-
attention to human rights, and we've done very well.
and it seems it's one of the most gay-friendly cities in the Western United States now, isn't it? Recognized as such? Or?
How can I see? I'm gay. I'm looking out through rose-colored glasses. You know, I do gay things with gay peoples. You know, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just the Gay Pride Parade in Salt Lake is
Ginormous.
massive.
Yes.
Just like talk about huge and successful.
Right. Crazy.
But it's good to see. I mean, it's nice to see that we are growing in our diversity. We're growing not just in our demographics, but in our ways of thinking.
Oh.
I mean, that's the best thing I can see.
Absolutely.
People need to have more diverse ideas. We don't need this monoculture telling how everything needs to be.
No. It's a pretty great place, to
Yeah.
coin an old phrase.
Yeah. Well, cool. So to get involved or to have your help or your agency's help in selling in your home, or if anybody's got a home that they need to sell or
Call me.
buy, call you.
Absolutely.
All right.
But I think if you just Google Babs Salt Lake, boom, you'll get 1,000 hits.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great advantage to have.
It
a
is.
name
One
like
out
that.
of two people know me for whatever reason, whether it was real estate for 35 years or being on the radio for 28 years or being involved in the community.
Are you still on the radio?
No, they fired all of us about a decade ago.
Oh, that's when that's when
That's when they
that
got
all
themselves a fancy advisor out of Utah that said, here's what you need to do to make more money at your nonprofit. And then they fired everybody and hired people and did pretty much a set format. And that was the end of that dream.
well, podcasting.
Yeah.
It's actually
Well,
not too difficult.
It's
I mean,
not at all.
It's more
I still have
difficult
3,000
than I thought.
albums, all by women.
Do you?
I do. And I may podcast it someday.
Cool.
But then I'd have to stop working, and that's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to find time for it.
I know, especially when you're having fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just
You have fun
love it.
working? Look around here.
Yeah, I like this. I like what we do.
We all do. Thank God for you.
Yeah. well,
And you know
thanks.
why? Also because it's easy to read.
Yeah, and you can put it in your purse.
Well, I don't really have one of those, but my Merce.
Put it in your glove box.
That's right.
Yeah, it's our best chefs issue, if anybody was wondering. And we just talked to Amy Britt. That episode's going to come out in about 2 weeks.
Oh,
and
good.
She's the owner of, you know her, Pig in a Jelly Jar.
Well, I don't know her, but I go eat there.
Yeah.
Does that
it's
count?
Good place.
It is a good place.
Yeah. Well, Babs, thanks a ton for coming
Absolutely.
on. Sure
Cheers,
appreciate
man.
it. Yeah.
All right.
It was fun. And thanks everybody for listening. This has been another episode of the Utah Stories podcast. And if you want to support or be a part of the program, you can follow us on Instagram. Just don't go to the places with my dogs that are so pristine and nice. Just enjoy the pictures. Don't go there. And and keep Utah a great place by keeping everything local. That's the message and the value of Utah Stories. So, all right. The Utah Story Show is brought to you in part by Legends Pub and Grill. It's locally owned and operated and serving up all your classic favorites and unique originals too. They have amazing burgers, which I absolutely love. Their food is made with real, wholesome, delicious ingredients, awesome appetizers, main dishes like steaks, sandwiches, salads, pizzas, calzones, and now they've got a very special new options for gluten-free and vegetarian folks. Finish off your meal with mouth-watering desserts, plus they have a full bar which offers all sorts of local craft beers. I love their talented bartenders, their tasty creations, and check them out for an upcoming Utah Jazz game or U of U game. It gets rowdy in there, but it's an awesome environment to go check out a game. They recommend you call ahead and reserve space for your group, and they accommodate all ages. They now have 2 locations. Your downtown Salt Lake City location is at 677 South, 200 West, and their new Southtown location is at 10631 South, Holiday Park Drive in Sandy, Utah. The Utah Stories podcast is brought to you in part by Curry Pizza. So Curry Pizza has been serving Indian food for over 10 years, and they came up with a twist of creation of putting curry sauces on pizzas. They opened their first location in a small town called Bicknell, Utah. It was called Binda's Curry Pizza Palace. When they began serving some incredible pizzas such as chicken tiki masala pizza with all of the fresh spices and ingredients of the old world with fresh Italian sausage, spicy sausage, and they also offer mango korma pizza. The Utah Story Show is brought to you by Curry Pizza, Paisley's Grass-Fed Beef, Utah State, home of the Aggies, Legend Sports Bar and Grill. We thank them for their support of this program.